Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. I hope you fared well this winter in our winter wonderland of snow today. It was hard to get around Hampton Roads, and unfortunately, our planned guests for today could not get here from out of town. So you, the audience, will be our very special guest today on Another View. It's a mini town hall, if you will, on what the community can do to improve the dropout rate in our area. We want to hear from you about programs that are working and about new ideas we need to put in place. We're talking about steps the community can take to make sure our young folks have a future. Right after this news from NPR.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. I want to send a special shout out and thank you to the first responders, to the people working in hospitals, to the police departments, to the special folks here at WHRO and WHRV who made it in despite the weather so that they could keep you informed of what was going on so that they could protect us and keep us safe. So we are so very thankful for that. But the majority of us got a 2-day break, and that was pretty nice. But best laid plans. Unfortunately, the snow affected us here at Another View. So our plan today was to talk about ending violence in our society with members of a civic group called Black Women for Positive Change. Now, our guests live in D.C., and they were wary about the weather and the road conditions here, so we had to postpone that show. But no worries, we're bringing it back on February the 21st. Then my fabulous producer, Lisa Godley, said, why don't we ask our Another View listeners for their ideas on what the community can do to prevent kids from dropping out of high school? Now, as you are well aware, WHRO, WHRV has been a critical part of the American Graduate Initiative, funded by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. We are planning a town hall discussion on this very topic, February the 13th. It will be streamed live on our WHRO website, and a broadcast program will air on WHRO TV 15 in March. We've held 2 community conversations recently, one on the South Side and one on the Peninsula, where friends and neighbors came together to discuss what the community can do to help our children succeed. So we want to hear from you, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. If you have a successful mentoring program or a great idea that the community can really rally around, give us a call and let's talk about it. Now, to fill in, I want to welcome to Another View Ms. Kelly Jackson. She is the director for the Center for Regional Citizenship here at WHRO and the spearhead behind our American Graduate Initiative. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Barbara.
So glad to have you on. And she's also one of the most favorite fans of Another View, so we always appreciate that. And joining me also as a guest today, playing 2 roles, is Lisa Godley, producer for Another View, but she's also the producer of 2 documentaries on the dropout crisis, and we'll be producing our town hall. So, Lisa, welcome on the other side.
Thank you, Barbara.
We appreciate that. And we're going to hear from others in the community who are working hard to make sure that our kids stay in school and do not drop out. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. I know all of the school systems are home today, so that means a lot of teachers, a lot of administrators are out there. Tell us what you need from the community. Community, tell us what you would like to do so that we can all work together. Kelly, tell us about the American Graduate Initiative, again, for those who may not be familiar.
Well, in 2011, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, in partnership with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and America's Promise Alliance, launched the American Graduate Let's Make It Happen initiative to help local communities across the country find solutions to the dropout problem. And they WHRO was one of the original community hubs, and since 2011, we have been engaging all of our capacities to address this issue. Education has provided professional development for teachers. Lisa, as you mentioned, has produced numerous productions related to the issue, and we've launched on-the-ground efforts to partner with community organizations and school divisions to help connect the needs with resources. And this community and town hall initiative is a continuation of those efforts.
Now, this is the second town hall that we've held. The first one, I had the honor and pleasure of moderating, which was with 100 teachers from throughout Hampton Roads that talked about the issues that they saw in terms of why kids are dropping out. And now this town hall will expand on that. Is that correct?
Yes. And as you said, we did have over 100 teachers here, and they, talked about everything from the barriers to success and what their needs are. But the one thing they all agreed on is they need more community support, that schools can't do it alone. And so this town hall is really bringing together those key community stakeholders: businesses, parents, students, intervention organizations, faith-based organizations that are working to address this issue.
Okay, and why should we care? Why should we care whether or not these kids graduate?
Depending upon the perspective and what you look at it through. I mean, economically, you either pay now or you pay later, and the economic ramifications of young people not graduating from high school are immense. From reliance on public service to, diminished career opportunities. It's just huge. And
we have pockets of very serious dropout within the Hampton Roads area. It's not every school division necessarily, but we do have serious pockets, don't we?
We do, yes. And one of the reasons we were selected as a public media organization to address this issue is because we do. Now, one of the things that many people don't know about WHRO is that we are owned by 19 school divisions in Hampton Roads, and there are a number of those school divisions that can boast of a 90% graduation rate or greater, but there are pockets, and one of the national statistics show that the majority of dropouts come from about 2,500 schools in the country. So they really are concentrated primarily in urban and rural areas, and it's associated with high rates of poverty. You can really trace back the high dropout rates to lower socioeconomic and poverty.
Lisa, now you've done a lot of background work and a lot of interviewing of people on this topic. And during our discussion, during our production meeting this morning, there was a comment made about, well, why don't they just go to night school? Why don't they just, figure it out? And you got a little passionate about that.
I think the actual statement was public education is free, so why aren't they taking advantage of it?
Yeah.
But yeah, my feathers get a little ruffled when I hear that, because I got a chance to sit down with students who are teen moms who are trying to take care of children and go to school. They want a better life for themselves and their children, and it's a struggle. Some of them need help. They need somebody to help them during the day, and a lot of times family members aren't available because of what Kelly was talking about the whole socioeconomic thing. Mom has to work too, so she can't stay home and take care of your child while you can. Others are homeless. They're moving every month or every couple of weeks from one family member's house to another family member's house to a hotel, and when you're constantly changing like that, it's hard to stay up with your studies. Sometimes you have to change schools, and when that happens, you don't know whether the school is ahead of where you were or behind where you are, and that gets frustrating, and that causes some kids to say, I just can't take this anymore. Some of them are taking care of sick parents, sick grandparents. They're trying to do that, and sometimes it just gets, wow, mom is so sick, I really need to just concentrate on taking care of her. She's my priority. I'm going to take care of her and not worry about school. They don't know that there are services available for mom. They just know that that's my responsibility as a child to help take care of mom. And some of them, because of the family's socioeconomic status, I got to work. I got to make sure our bills are paid. I got to help mom take care or dad take care of these bills. So I got to work full time. And they try to go to school for as long as they can. And then it just becomes overwhelming.
So it's not just an idea of this kid is lazy or this kid just wants to go run the streets or something like that, that these young people are facing issues that normally young people don't have to face.
In the majority of cases, there are just there's a weight on them depending on what their situation is.
Mm-hmm. Kelly?
Well, I was just going to add that there's a study out of Boston College that shows that for young people living in poverty, 65% of the reasons for dropping out of school are related to out-of-school factors, just like Lisa just described. And a local statistic is that 76% of our homeless children will not graduate from high school.
So Lisa, when people like our lovely Bill Thomas, who we love, but when he gets frustrated because of some other societal issues and says, you know what, 16, forget it, there's no hope for them, let's just focus on the little kids. What's your reaction to that in terms of what we need to be doing?
My reaction is these kids need help. They need help. Those that I spoke to, Barbara, most of them said, if I could just have somebody in my corner, somebody that, and most of them don't even think about it in a financial way. They just think, if I had somebody saying, you can do this, you can get through this, somebody, with that paid attention, that said, look, okay, you got to pass this test, you got to get through this, then they would, they'd be a little more focused, and they really want a mentor. They really want somebody in their corner.
I want to bring Quentin Brown into the conversation. He is the Executive Director of Communities and Schools of Hampton Roads. Hi, Quentin. How are you?
Hi, Barbara. I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. So you've been hearing what we've been talking about thus far. Are you the solution?
Am I? I think that's a loaded question, but I think we bring a lot of value to the table, and I think we can be a part of the solution. I don't think one person or one organization will be the sole solution, but I think, like what we're doing, we're bringing awareness to this challenge and this epidemic. Mm-hmm. And as a community, we can come together as a solution.
So you heard Lisa describe the issues that the students that she's interviewed are going through: teen pregnancy, poverty, having to take care of sick family, homelessness, etc. Mm-hmm. Tell us what your organization does to address those issues and help students to continue to navigate through high school.
So communities and schools, our mission is simple. We surround students with a community of support, empowering them to stay in school and achieve in life. So we are by design a dropout prevention organization. And what we know is that because these conversations that we're having, these aren't new conversations. These are conversations that have been going on for years. And we also know that in these communities where we're having these epidemics, we know that there are outstanding resources that can provide quality services to our students in need. But the challenge is generally the disconnect. How do we get those quality services to the students and families that need them most? Mm-hmm. That's the void that communities and schools fill. We in true partnership, we place site coordinators in our partnering schools, and their job, their responsibility, is to identify the needs of our students on site. And once we identify that need, we begin to dig a little deeper to figure out what the real root is. What is the root cause that is preventing our students from achieving their full academic potential? And then because we know our communities, we go out into the community and say, well, here's the resource that can best fit this student. And we make that connection. And because we want to ensure that what we're providing is of quality, we now monitor and track to ensure that that relationship is making a difference. Mm-hmm. If it is, great. Let's continue. But if it's not, then how do we adjust the dosage so that it is making a meaningful impact for that student and their family?
So does the school have to invite you in? Is that how it works?
Well, you'll find that our partnerships happen in many different ways. Being that we're a national organization, we serve approximately 1.2 million students a year, and we have affiliates in 27 states. So you'll find that in each school it may be different. So the short answer to your question is, sure, if a school invites us in and we have the resources to make a meaningful impact at that school, we'll attach to that school. But oftentimes you'll see that from the outside looking in, we see that there are needs in the community that may not be on the radar of many. So we'll identify those needs and say, hey, this is something or this is somewhere where we can make a real impact. Would you like to have us in and partner with your school and make a difference? So it can happen in a multitude of ways.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation today. We're talking about helping our kids from the community's perspective. I want to talk to Chris in Hampton. Hi, Chris. You're on the air.
Hi, Chris. I just wanted to say I teach 8th grade language arts in Hampton. I'm in Hampton Roads area. I'm the teacher who's getting ready to send them to high school. And if anyone questions Lisa's assessment of our students, she's absolutely dead on. I have those students who are facing those issues every day and more. One of the things that I see in my class is I have students who really struggle with a very basic foundation of all of this, which is reading. They're frustrated with reading. They're overwhelmed with reading. They don't want to read. They are very frustrated with it. One of my solutions is really a long-term one. I would really encourage anyone who has children who are not yet school age to please read to them at home. I found out that more than 95% of my children were never read to at home as children. They don't see anyone reading at home. So I would encourage people to not only to read to their preschool age children, but then once they're in school, continue to read to them out loud. Read to them into middle school years. While they're in the car, have them read to you. While they're loading the dishwasher, read to them. Make that a part that's woven into your life so that reading isn't something that is spectacular or different or a chore, but it's just a part of everyday life. The second thing I would say is, as a way for the community to help now, is I know that my students could use some very strong black male role models in their lives. And any kind of mentor program that we could get. I know I taught in Richmond for a while, and we had an organization here called Brothers Keepers. And it was wonderful. And there were just some lovely young men who came from all walks of life who came, and our students were able to look and see themselves in these really successful, strong young men. And I know I look around in life and in the media, and I know that my students very often don't see themselves projected in a positive light in much of the media, much of the films, much of the commercials. So I know what they struggle with. And bless them. So I would say for me, long term and short term, if you have, it's just so important to just have your children see you reading and read to them. And then if anyone is listening and they think, I really don't feel like I have a lot of time, but maybe I have something to offer to a young man or a young lady in school. I could be kind of a successful person. See what organization you could get with to do that, even if it was just a couple hours a week, or it would just go a huge, long way. So, Barbara, I thank you, and I thank your group. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
That's fantastic, Chris. We really appreciate your phone call, and we want you to stay safe and warm in this snowy weather. But thank you for listening and for pointing that out. And I do want to point out also, in Virginia, there is a 23% gap between the amount of the percentage of black males who graduate versus white males who graduate. I mean, almost 50% of African American males in Virginia do not graduate from high school. And that is a startling statistic. Quentin, are you all working with that particular group?
We are. We don't work with any particular group more than any other group, but we do know that is a challenge. And what your colleague said, what Chris shared, is exactly right. And that statistic you shared, it is startling. But knowing that is a challenge, we know that we have to focus our efforts in that population to help close that gap. So we don't isolate any one group, but we know that that's a focus of ours, and we need to pay close attention to that to help that. to help close that gap.
Chris brought up mentoring, and I want to bring into the conversation Sarah Peoples Perry. She is the director of Systematic Tutoring Expecting Progress, or the STEP program, and it focuses on grades K through 5. And Sarah, I have a feeling that you would agree with Chris about reading to your children.
I do agree with that. I agree with teachers, parents, anyone. A mentor reading to students as often and as much as they possibly can, because the more they read, the better they read.
Now, tell us about the STEP program and what exactly you all do.
The STEP program is an after-school program geared to provide an additional instructional intervention for our students in all the areas, not just reading, but math, science, and social studies. What we do is for an hour and a half after school, we set the students down during an educational time, learning time at the recreation centers and or the Boys and Girls Club, and help the students with their homework, making sure they understand the directions and the skill that they are being asked to do by their teachers. We work in cooperation with the teachers of the schools. The teachers send us the homework assignments so that we know what the students have to do. And if the students can't do the homework, I go over it with them and help them to attain success in getting the answers correct during the time we have with them.
Where do you find your mentors?
I find my mentors through volunteers. I have volunteers from TCC, ODU, and Norfolk State. Plus, I get my husband and my daughters and my grandchildren to come out with me to help give that assistance to the students, because the more you give, the more you'll get back. And we get back the return of a student's success in school.
How many students are you working with right now?
We're working with approximately 48 students at the Berkeley Recreation Center and 52 students at the Boys and Girls Club in Berkeley and 62 students at the Boys and Girls Club in Diggstown.
Okay. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Jeremy joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Jeremy. You're on the air.
How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Basically, I guess I called in to speak about my organization, the League of Extraordinary Men.
Okay. And what is the League of Extraordinary Men?
The League of Extraordinary Men is a young collegiate African-American males on Norfolk State campus trying to strive better for our young males. Also, we're trying to give back to our community to what we was lacking as children. So we're pretty much reaching out and being an outlet for men, especially on campus, on and off campus.
So you mentor young people, young males in particular?
Yes, ma'am, but we actually don't have an actual target group. Anybody that needs mentoring, whether it's older or younger.
Okay. And how do people get involved with your group?
Honestly, you can just find us on campus, or we have a page. You just contact us, and they can definitely get in touch with us. We have a lot of outreach programs. We go to a lot of schools like Chesterfield, Betty F. Williams. Sometimes we go to Jacobs, and there's a couple other schools, Library, Larchmont, a lot of different schools.
Okay. All right. And you're saying that there's a Facebook page that people can look you up, or do you have a phone number that you'd like to share?
It's actually an Instagram page that we have up and a Twitter account.
An Instagram and Twitter. Instagram account and a Twitter account, okay?
Yeah.
And if for those who want to assist and may not be as savvy in terms of social media, how do they reach you?
We have an actual email.
Okay.
It's theleague@gmail.com. It's theleague.em@gmail.com.
theleague.em@gmail.com. Okay, Jeremy, thanks so much for the phone call. We appreciate that. Quentin, if someone wants to get involved in terms of being an organization that communities and schools will reach out to help, how do they connect with you?
Give me a call. Give me a call. Give me an email. Send me a snail mail, pigeon mail, anyhow. Just reach out to me. And I say that jokingly, but in all seriousness, any means. I think in every community that we serve, they vary so much. In every community, there are organizations that are geared towards that community and can best serve the needs of that community. And that's how we operate. We don't say, well, we're communities and schools of Hampton Roads. Who's in Hampton Roads that wants to give back? We're going to say we're communities and schools of Hampton Roads serving IC Norcom High School. Who's working in that community that best knows that community and wants to give back there? Or if you're in Hampton, you're in our Performance Learning Center area. Who's in that community that can best serve the peninsula. And that's how we identify our partners, and that's how they can identify with us, and that's how we make the greatest impact for the students we serve. But the short answer is just that my phone number is 757-609-9231, or you can find us at communitiesandschools.org.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the community's role in preventing high schoolers from dropping out, and we'd love to hear from you. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Quentin, I hear sometimes that people say, well, I'd like to volunteer, or they get excited when they come to a town hall and they want to jump into the school, but then there are barriers in the sense of background checks, or the school may not quite be ready for them. How do you keep the enthusiasm up and yet figure out what's the best way for you to participate?
All right, and you're right. The background checks are barriers, but I don't like to call them barriers because they're needed. We want to ensure that anyone that's coming to volunteer with our students that they are qualified to do as such. Mm-hmm. But it is a process you have to go through, and it's very easy to lose the momentum and enthusiasm. So what we like to do, we like to have ongoing conversations with our potential volunteers. First, we want to identify who they are, what's their background, what do they like to do, where do they want to get engaged. And once we can identify that, then we can have conversations about trainings and having tours and visits of the schools where they're going to be volunteering. So we have a very clear process to make sure that from day one, when that volunteer becomes motivated to volunteer, to actually volunteering, that there's a process that keeps the enthusiasm and energy up, so that we don't lose that. And we tell them the process up front, so there are no hidden agendas, there are no surprises. They hear it on the front end, and that's the process that they go through. Our job is to make that avenue as simple and as easy as possible for our volunteers. Okay.
And Sarah, I asked you the same question. Do you have a problem with the enthusiasm, or are you able to keep volunteers engaged?
Well, being that, and I laugh because I have my family, so they can't get out of it. But when it comes to the TCC students and Norfolk State students, and we've used some of the exceptional men, it's hard sometimes to keep them coming to the Berkeley Recreation Center, and then they switch over and go to the Boys and Girls Club. But we do have those who just stay right there. The TCC students have stayed with me throughout the program, and they seem to be very enthused with it. And we do training. We work with them. Being an ex-principal or retired principal, I have to sit down with them and go over things on how to tutor, not to give children the answers, how to pry them to get the answers out of them, to make sure that they understand what they're doing. So we do have to do that. And some do drop by the wayside because they just want to just give the answer and move on. So they do move on. But with good training, they'll stay. And I try to give incentives, pats on the back to let them know that I really appreciate what they're doing, calling them to keep them involved. So we do things to keep them involved. But some of them, of course, will fall off the wayside. But we do keep them going all the time.
Okay, Lisa.
Lisa, I have a question. Do they, do any of the relationships continue outside of the teaching them, the basic school skills with your program?
This is for me?
Yes.
Oh, yes, it does. I have found that they call me and they volunteer at some of the other schools and within their own schools. Some of my TCC students go back and they help each other out. So it continues past what they're doing in the after-school program. Some of them have one student, I said some, but one student came back and said she learned from me on how to help some of her colleagues at the college level, and that was really good. Mm-hmm. So I think it does continue because they learn the process of engaging other people in their learning, in the learning process. So I think that's a good thing for them.
Paying it forward. Barrett joins us. Barrett joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Barrett. You're on the air.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Okay.
Great. I'm Barrett Hicks. I am the Executive Director for the Concerned Citizens Association, Tidewater Connection. And we do work diligently with Sarah Peoples Perry over at the Recreation Center. Mm-hmm. One of the things we want to share is that we truly thank the city as far as our recreation centers and Boys and Girls Club and our civic leagues and whatnot. There needs to be a collaboration of bringing them together to ensure that we can continue these programs. What we find is that, as like Sarah said, people drop off the bandwagon because there's the lack of programming. We want to help within the program as other recreation centers or whatnot, so that we all can make sure that these children will succeed.
Okay.
It's the key that the collaboration of bringing education and recreation, or education and community involvement, is a must.
All right. One of the things that I noticed, thank you, Barrett, for that call. One of the things I noticed, though, is that we're talking always about the education component, but I wonder sometimes in these volunteer positions that the kid just needs the social side. And so that they can get past that, so that then they can focus at least on the academics.
That's what some of them do need. The lady that mentioned it earlier, I think it was Chris, that called in talking about those role models, particularly those African American male role models, so important.
Mm-hmm. Kelly?
Well, and it's been said that just a child having just one caring adult in their life can make all the difference in the world. And mentors certainly provide more than just the academic support. They provide guidance and encouragement. And I'd just like to mention, too, that those benefits go both ways. As Sarah was mentioning, people who serve as mentors have reported that they have improved health and self-esteem, and it increases their patience. So there are a lot of reciprocal benefits to mentoring.
I like that.
Okay. Linda joins us from Chesapeake. Hi, Linda. You're on the air.
Hi, Barbara. Yes, and I really would like to share that I'm involved with a program here in Chesapeake, a grassroots movement that's about 4 years old, called Get Smart. Mm-hmm. And we are a mentoring program that, under our umbrella of mentoring, one of the things we do is tutoring. And your last caller talked about the importance of social. And so what we do is we pick up high school students from a local high school immediately after dismissal, and we take them to the local YMCA. And they recreate at the YMCA, mm-hmm. and they, of course, love that. And then we have volunteers that, after they spend an hour recreating at the YMCA, they are served a meal at a local church, but different groups from the community, like the Ruritan Club, might take a turn to provide a meal for these students. And then following the meal, there is some team-building things that occur, and then there's breakout sessions where students can work one-on-one and get tutoring. Some of them are filling out job applications. Some of them are studying. And so from dismissal from school, which is a little bit before 4 o'clock, mm-hmm. until 8 o'clock, and then volunteers drive these students home that don't have a way to get home since they've been picked up from school. Some mm-hmm. of the students drive, but some don't. This is starting our 4th year. We've had more than 20 students now that have graduated from the program, and then they continue to come back. So that's where we get and they end up mentoring their younger students. And we actually have more students than we have mentors now.
Wow.
I know. It started out with 5 students 4 years ago, and now we have, on an average night, 35 students that come.
Are you working with students from all of the high schools in Chesapeake, or just one?
At this point, we are only working with students from one of the high schools in Chesapeake.
Okay.
And
Linda, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
What got you involved?
I believe it or not, even though I'd known about this program, it was a phone call from one person that called and said, we could use you and we need you. So I think that works a lot like if you've ever taken a CPR course, mm-hmm. they say it's really critical to not just unilaterally say, hey, somebody call for help, that you have to actually designate somebody. And even though I knew this program existed for more than 3 years, it wasn't until somebody did that, hey, I need you. And so I think that's one of the things we need to do to get more people involved, that instead of just kind of having these blanket things, that we need to directly make eye contact and say, I really need your help to come. Mm-hmm. We find that because it's mentoring, that it isn't just that one night a week on Tuesdays when we meet, that there often is like a lot of the mentors, particularly since we don't meet during the summer, they might end up taking a student and taking them to like the Virginia Aquarium, or
so they
let's
continue
go to
the
a museum.
relationship. They continue the relationship
Yes.
beyond the actual tutoring night. That's incredible, Linda. Thanks so much for your call and for sharing that program with us, the Get Smart Mentoring Program in Chesapeake. Chris joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Chris. You're on the air.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I would just like to pose a question to the guest speakers on what is the parents' role in keeping children in school? Because there's a lot of great programs out there that may affect a few dozen students here or there, but out of the thousands of high school students in the region, doesn't this all begin and end with parental leadership and, functional parents and households? And isn't it all just, isn't it just somewhat of a misnomer to think that the community can come together to reduce the high school dropout rate when if the parents aren't doing their jobs, it's the results are going to be more or less the same. You may move the needle a little bit in one direction, but if the parents aren't involved in keeping their kids in school, how is this not just spinning our wheels?
Okay, Chris, let's get an answer from our panel here. Let's start with you, Quentin. How would you respond to Chris's question?
I think the important thing to remember is that although we're talking about the community's involvement in impacting the dropout rate, I think we have to keep in mind that we haven't isolated the students without their parents. From my perspective, when I hear the phrase "get the community involved," I automatically think about students, parents, and schools. So I think there's a full approach to say, well, how can we get our parents engaged? And you have a lot of conversations at schools about parental involvement. Well, parents don't get involved. But I think we have to be very creative in terms of how we phrase that term of parental involvement and change to make parental engagement. What other opportunities do we have for them to become engaged instead of just mentors or tutors or field trip monitors, or for that matter? What other opportunities can we provide our parents to say, listen, we know you may not want to get involved in this way, but can we engage you in some other way? But the point of it is, my term for community involvement to impact the dropout rate automatically includes the parental piece. Everything we provide for our students, we have to have an underlying parental involvement component or parental engagement component. So it's built into our system.
Okay.
Depending on what we're working towards, it's going to depend on what the parent is engaged with.
Sarah, how would you answer that question?
The same as Quentin has answered you. Everything we do, we think about the parents being involved too. In the after-school program that we are conducting, when parents come to pick their children up from those programs, I sit and talk with the parent on how they can help the students at home and things that they're doing they can do at home. Because a lot of our parents don't feel very comfortable going into the schools outside of their district or within their districts. They're not as comfortable going in talking with the teachers and with the administration. But when you meet parents on their own term and their own territory and you get them involved, they're more engaged. I have not met one parent who don't want their child to succeed and will do anything that they can do to help that child succeed. But in order to do that, they need to understand what can they do. So we have to train our parents on things that they can do to get the students involved and that they can get involved in, too, outside of the school or within the school. And at the same time, schools have to be more receptive to parents coming in to talk about what's going on. Do more to invite them in, making it feel more comfortable for them to come to you. I speak as a principal, as a teacher. You have to go within their territory, then bringing them to you.
Okay, Lisa.
I agree with what Quentin and Sarah said. That's absolutely true. The parents, it's a complete package. And there are those exceptions where the parent can't. I mean, I interviewed a young man whose mom was having some mental health issues, and he was pretty much the adult in the household. And there are those cases when that happens. And parents, for example, if they are homeless, if they are moving from, say, hotel to hotel or family member's house to family member's house, they don't want to talk to anybody to ask for help because they're afraid Child Protective Services is going to come in and take their children away because they can't take care of them, or that's what Child Protective Services is going to say to them. So they won't even reach out to get help. So we have to let people know what's available to them and come in as someone who wants to help them, because there are some situations that, they aren't gonna ask for help because for those very reasons.
Keller?
Well, I would just add, I agree with everything everyone said, but as Lisa talked about earlier, these challenges the students face, I mean, the parents are facing challenges as well. So we also need to reach out to the parents and provide them with support.
Okay. Vicki joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Vicki. You're on the air.
Hi. Two quick little things. I do some part-time work with the Adult Learning Center, and one of the things, as people have brought up before, one of the problems is students don't like to read. So some of the things we've started doing to try to help get the interest up is bringing in magazines, but the type of magazines that they would be interested in reading. Hair magazines, gossip magazines. They may not be the best as far as information, but it gets them interested in something that, you know, they have an interest in, and it gets them to reading.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember when I was young, they used to say comic books to let the kids read comic books. But whatever it is to make them interested, that's the key. Thanks so much for the call, Vicki. We really appreciate it. Our phones are blowing up, so I want to try to get as many calls in as possible. Let's see. Lisa joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Lisa.
I'm Lisa from Norfolk.
Lisa. Oh, okay. Well, Lisa from Norfolk. We'll take you now.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, as someone, I used to volunteer in D.C. about 30 years ago, and I had wonderful experiences helping, you know, like girls that got pregnant and dropped out their senior year and they needed home, you know, tutoring. When I came down to Norfolk, I was free to do that. But I found that in Norfolk.
Hello?
Are you there?
Yes, we're here.
Okay, in Norfolk, I had a student having trouble in math, and I could see that the only problem was that he was losing track, so I gave him graph paper, you know, to keep his numbers in line. No, his teacher would not allow that. No, you know, and she would just not look at his page because it came in on graph paper. You know, even though it was all right.
So,
you know?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't mean to cut you off, Lisa. I'm just trying to make sure we get all of the calls in. But you're saying some of the barriers that you faced in trying to volunteer make it difficult. So that may be something that the school systems may want to think about. And we appreciate your call. Lisa from Virginia Beach joins us now. Hi, Lisa. You're on the air.
Hi. I just wanted to respond to Chris's comments because I'll grant you, I'm an older person. However, I came from a family environment where they did not care whether I got an education or not.
Mm-hmm.
They simply were obligated to feed me and make sure that, you know, I didn't go to school barefoot. But beyond that, I was on my own. And I saw from a very early age that I wasn't getting what I needed from my family, but I wanted more. And I fought for it. I fought tooth and nail for it. And I got it. But don't assume that because someone has a child that they are going to fulfill all the needs or wants or desires of that child. Mm-hmm. And don't think that the child doesn't know this, because we do.
So
we will fight and we will do whatever it takes.
And that's even more reason why we need the community as a whole to come together to help. Lisa, thanks so much for sharing that perspective. Let's see, can we get Eric in from Matthews? Hi, Eric, you're on the air.
Hello, thanks for taking the call. I listen whenever I can.
Thank you.
Today when I turned it on, I heard Quinton. I believe Quinton was in Richmond with communities and schools. I've been running a program for 11 years called Riders for Readers, and I agree with Vicki's comments a few minutes ago that if you can just get kids reading, that will lead to better performance in all the academic subjects, and it doesn't matter what they read. We bring a couple thousand books to an elementary school and let the kids pick whatever they want, and we talk to them about the importance of recreational reading.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids always react very well to a group of adults coming, giving up part of their day, because they know that they're important to somebody. And just showing the interest, giving them the opportunity, and we say, take these books home, read them, share them with your family members to try and get some recreational reading into their regular schedules at home. And I'd appreciate it if Quinton would comment on the Writers for Readers program.
Okay, Eric, thanks so much for the call. Quentin, I'm going to give you a chance to react to that and then very quickly to give one final thought because we have about 2 minutes left in this segment.
All right. Well, real quick, I thoroughly enjoyed the Writers for Readers program, and come to this position by way of Communities in Schools of Richmond, where I spent over 7 years. And what happens is very quickly the group of adults ride out one day on motorcycles on a nice spring day, ride out on one of these beautiful motorcycles. And I had the pleasure of joining them this past year, or 3 or 4 years ago. And you show up, and these students are outside waiting for you, lined up on the grass, and you pull up on these loud motorcycles. And the whole idea is to get them excited about the motorcycles, but you come in for a program about reading. And it's kind of, you give it to them, and they don't even know they're receiving it. They receive these books. They see these cool adults who enjoy reading, and they become excited about it. And I would love to, if I could get them to shoot me an email, I'd love to have that program down in Hampton Roads as well.
Okay, so Eric, hopefully Eric is listening, and he will contact you. If Quentin, give us the email address again and the phone number where you can be reached.
Phone number 609-9231. And you can email me at info@cisofhamptonroads.org.
Okay, we'll have that information also on our website. Quentin Brown, Executive Director of Communities and Schools of Hampton Roads, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Sarah, let people know how they can get in touch with the STEP program if they'd like to participate.
You can go on the website, the CCA, Tidewater Youth, at gmail.com. Find email there, and the phone numbers are there. You can contact us for the STEP program.
Okay, and we'll also have that information on our website also. Sarah Peoples-Perry, who's the Director of Systematic Tutoring, Expecting Progress, or the STEP program. Kelly, tell us about the town hall.
Well, the town hall will be live in the WHRO studio on February 13th. And for folks in the community who would like to get involved, it will be streamed on our website at whro.org/American Graduate. We will have a Facebook event page and be tweeting with the hashtag WHRO Town Hall. So 7 p.m. February 13th. Watch us live online and get involved.
Fantastic. Right. And Lisa, one last final comment. You got 10 seconds.
Wow. 10 seconds. Come out to the town hall, be a part of it, participate, let us know what you think. We appreciate it. It takes a community.
And we'll be right back.
This is Irony Singleton. I've had the great pleasure in my short Hollywood career to have worked on The Blind Side, An Amish Murder with Neve Campbell, and of course, The Walking Dead. And you're listening to Another View on 89.5 FM.
And welcome back. If you've ever been asked a question that made you uncomfortable or found yourself in a debate over something someone assumed was true, then you'll appreciate our next story. It's about a web series called Black Folk Don't, and it addresses stereotypes about the African American community. Our Lisa Godley recently spoke to the creator of this satirical, provocative, and engaging program about its origin, its popularity, and its future.
I've asked my father, I've asked my aunts, why don't black people tip? I don't know why.
That's one thing I might actually be like, no, black people don't go to therapy.
White people do, or something that's expensive.
I would say for me, I was open to it, but the black folk I know, not so much.
The web series Black Folk Don't is sparking both dialogue and debate over issue after issue. And the show's creator, writer, director, and producer, Angela Tucker, couldn't be happier because that's exactly what she'd hoped it would do.
Black Folk Don't is a web series that looks at stereotypes in the black community in a humorous way, but is also a very complex look at it as well. You know, I think some people, it kind of makes some black people uncomfortable that these conversations are happening on the web and this kind of open space. But, you know, my feeling is these pieces allow for a more complex image of blackness.
Tucker tackles a variety of topics, ranging from common assumptions like black folk don't swim to black folk don't do feminism, each season traveling to different locations for new perspectives. Season 1 was recorded in New York, Season 2 in New Orleans, and Season 3 using different parts of California as the backdrop. Each segment stirring up conversations about common assumptions, and all remaining under 8 minutes in length.
Oh, black folk don't live to the end of a horror film.
Black people don't live to the end of a horror film.
That should be a rap because it happens so often.
They don't make it. First or second death, yeah.
We don't. We really don't get to live to the end. Like, that's why I went into film.
I've never made it to the end of a horror film, and I've been in several. When I show up on set, I'll be like, where you want me to die at? Like, well, how we gonna do this today, director? Smart, creative director. Where you gonna kill the black man today?
While Black Folk Don't makes it a point to talk to everyday people doing everyday things, you may spot a few recognizable faces sharing their thoughts on the issues.
You know, black folks don't go green. Well, I'm a black folk, and I'm totally green.
Black folk do go green. California is a prime example of that.
No, we throw all the stuff in the same trash can. We don't even know what those other two trash cans are for. The green one and the blue one is just like, why did they even give me this? And then when we find out that we got to pay for it, and we've been paying for it, people are mad.
Season 2 featured comments from MSNBC's Touré and Melissa Harris Perry. I also noticed faces that looked familiar, but I wasn't quite sure. So I asked Tucker why she chose not to post their names in the lower third of the screen to identify them.
So I don't use lower thirds because I believe in this particular series, not, with all things, but I believe that I really like people to talk from personal experience and that no one person is more of a, quote, expert on the Black experience than the other. So if you see someone is a historian or someone is an academic, that person's opinion gets kind of weighted differently than if you see that someone is a barber, for example. And in my life, I've found that I've gotten kind of so much wisdom from unexpected places, and I wanted to recreate that in the series.
Tucker says she'll keep doing the show until she runs out of topics, and she says she'll know when the topics are getting sparse.
Oh, yeah, I will. I have sort of a personal feeling of when I'm starting to do ones like Black folk don't like coffee on a Sunday or like a really silly specific one like that. That's when I know I've run out,
Gotcha.
But there's still some good ones that we haven't, touched upon yet.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
What a funny show. And it just goes to show you that you can laugh at yourself and teach people at the same time. Just want to remind you that tomorrow, the free prostate cancer workshop, free PSA testing, and free digital rectal exams will go on at Queen Street Baptist Worship Center, 98 Armistead Avenue in Hampton, starting at 8:30 a.m. We told you about this last week on the show. Please call Charlie Hill at 827-0488 to register and for details, and you'll want to get involved with that effort. We hope today's program gave you food for thought and that you will get involved in helping our young people see the value of an education for their future. If you want to know more about the American Graduate Initiative, visit our website, whro.org/American Graduate. And if you'd like to hear the show again or share it with a friend, visit our website, anotherviewradio.org, and download the podcast. Next week, Dare to Be Extraordinary, an examination of the role fathers played in the success of their very famous children. Should be a really interesting discussion. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Victor Bowman is our audio engineer. And Austin, what's his last name? Actually, my Austin Bell answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week for Another View.